Hi, film students. It is Miss Roberts, and this is our first flipped lesson. I'm so excited. We are going to be learning about film history today. We are doing these in pockets, so you won't get a full 45-minute video or anything. You'll just get a couple minutes here and there, and then we'll kind of take some quizzes and watch some clips. So let's get started. So what exactly is film history? Film history basically traces the development of moving images from early experiments with photography all the way to inventing actually movie cameras. So there's different ways to study film history, and that's kind of what we're going to go through. But basically, since mid 1850s, 1830s is when they started photography, and film history goes all the way back to that because essentially film and movies are photographs. So this is one of the best movies that we'll be watching about the world of films in Hollywood, and this is Sunset Boulevard. This is a very classic. This is the coined of the phrase "crazy eyes." So Sunset Boulevard we'll be watching goes through film history, and so I'm excited to watch that. So there's four traditional ways that you can study film history. All are equally okay. I really like looking at some of them versus the other, but the four approaches, you have aesthetic, you have technological, the economic approach, and finally you can view film as social history. So anything that's written in red is going to be on a quiz or on the test, and so it's recommended that you write this down for notes. So anything that's in red in a slide that you see. So let's talk briefly about the approaches to studying film history. The first one is the aesthetic approach. Basically, aesthetics is a big kid word for how things look. Artistically, if movies have a certain look to them, that's called their aesthetics. The official definition for the aesthetic approach is evaluating individual movies or their directors using criteria that assesses their artistic significance and their influence on how things look. So certain movies have a certain look to them. For example, the Batman movies, the new ones. Those are very dark, very film noir, and so they actually coined a new genre called the neo-noir. They have a special look to them. The next one is technological approach, and basically this examines the circumstances or the time period that the movie helped catapult technological advances in the film industry. So it focuses on the interaction of technology within the film, as well as the aesthetics of the technology, economic factors, that sort of thing. Thirdly, the economic approach. This is examining the economic history of the individual movie, as well as like movie studios, like Warner Brothers would be a studio production, Disney, that sort of thing. The economic approach is basically focused on money. So the economy surrounding that. Very straightforward, but you know. And finally, film is social history. This is probably one of the coolest ones, but also the hardest to prove. Film is social history basically says that society and culture influence movies and vice versa, where movies influence society and culture. And there's not one that's better than the other. They both work hand in hand. Lots of movies consider factors as religion, politics, cultural trends, taboos. There is nothing that you can't do in a movie. You are sure to upset some people because of it, but you can do pretty much whatever you want as long as you have the money to produce it. So that's an interesting one to look at. I like that one a lot. So let's dive in to a short overview of film history all the way up to 1947. So beginning with photography. Photography is the basic building block of film. 1839 was the first piddling with photographs by John Herschel. the next thing that kind of came about was called a camera obscura, and this is a location large enough for a viewer to stand inside. Think of like a closet size kind of thing. Light enters a tiny hole in one side and projects an image from that outside of the space onto the opposite wall inside the little studio. And so here's a clip of that. It actually goes in through the little pinhole and it'll flip-flop the image. And so this was important in the development of film. The coolest thing that really catapulted film was the series photography, and that is someone took pictures as fast as they could of an action and kind of made like a mini flip book and revealed that when you do it fast enough, it looks like moving images, and that's what film is moving photographs. So the big milestones. Talbot invented the negative, the film negative, the medium on which film was first printed. But the biggest thing is the continuous motion by Muybridge in 1877. And this is a slide of that. Basically, somebody bet Muybridge that when a horse runs, that all 4 feet stay on the ground. So Muybridge was going to take pictures to prove or disprove that theory and hopefully win the bet. So he took a picture of the horses, one horse running, and realized that he had taken so many pictures it actually looked like the horse was running, just like a little flip book, kind of like a cartoon. All right, so let's talk about the first movies. Started in 1891. They recorded a sneeze in 1894, and that was the first thing on film, and we'll watch a clip of that in just a minute. In 1895, the Lumiere brothers actually filmed real-life happenings, like in France, in a factory, people playing in the pond, that sort of thing. George Méliès is the cinema's first narrative artist, where he actually, instead of filming real-life events, decided he was going to make stories. So talking about the first audiences, the first audience to experience a moving film was in 1895. They saw the Lumiere brothers' Actualities. The first film was called Workers Leaving the Lumiere Factory. The first film was called Workers Leaving the Factory. They had another film that came after that called Train Entering the Gare de Ciotat, which I think is train station. This caused people to scream and faint when the train approached the end of the screen because they thought the train was going to come out and get them. So pandemonium with that one. And these did not show a story. They just showed something on the screen. So this is a picture of the Black Maria, and this was the first film studio because film studios were big because you needed lots of light to help film stuff. So here's the inside of the Black Maria, and this is a drawing, and it just kind of shows people acting in front of the camera. So this is one of the first films, part of the Actualities. It's a staged pillow fight. And then here is children digging for clams. And so we're going to watch a couple of clips of all of this. So George Méliès was the first to experiment with special effects. As you can see, he liked cutting stuff apart and taping film slides on top of film slides in order to get stuff like this. And then finally, this is the Great Train Robbery, and as you can see, they actually hand-painted frame by frame colors onto the film strip in order to get colors to pop out. And so that's really the beginning of film history. So we're up into the year 1908, and so really starting in the 1890s until 1908 is when film started. And so that is it for our mini lesson. Starting the next video, we'll actually go from 1908 to 1927 and the boom of silent pictures. And so that'll be your next video to watch.